The tragic case of Pınar Gültekin, a story that shook a nation. Pınar's story is more than just another crime statistic. It is a symbol of a global epidemic of violence against women, a reminder that too many lives are lost to men who refuse to take no for an answer. Her face, her name, and her legacy continue to inspire movements for change. Yet the question remains, how many more women must die before justice is truly served? On October 1st, 1993, in Hizan, Bitlis, Turkey, Pınar Gültekin was born, a bright soul destined for promise. A proud Kurdish citizen and a dedicated student at Muğla Sitki Kocaman University, Pınar was known for her kindness, intelligence, and an infectious smile that lit up every room. Her life, full of dreams and academic promise, took a fateful turn on July 16, 2020. That day, while pursuing her studies in the Faculty of Economic Sciences, Pınar made a seemingly ordinary phone call with her sister, Sibel Gültekin. After the conversation, she left her modest apartment in the Akyaka neighborhood of Ula Muğla, with plans to visit a shopping center, AVM, in the Menteşe district. But Pınar would never return home, and that evening marked the beginning of a nightmare that would soon engulf her family and captivate a nation. On July 16, 2020, when Pınar failed to answer her phone, her family's initial concern soon escalated into panic. Her mother, Safika Gültekin, and sister Sibel quickly traveled to Muğla to report her missing to the Akyaka Gendarmerie Command. Despite the frantic efforts and social media pleas for help, Pınar's whereabouts remained a mystery. Days passed with agonizing uncertainty. Then, on July 21, 2020, authorities made a grisly discovery. In a remote forested area of Menteşe, near the village of Yerkesik, the burned and mutilated body of Pınar was found hidden inside a discarded barrel, a body that bore the unmistakable marks of brutal violence. Her remains were later interred at Gaydakoyu Cemetery in Hizan, Bitlis. The investigation quickly focused on a 32-year-old man, Cemal Metin Avci, a married man and father, who soon became the prime suspect. According to multiple interrogations and forensic evidence, Avci had a history of violence and had been stalking Pınar for some time. Though he claimed that there was an intimate relationship between them, Pınar's family vehemently denied any such connection. Instead, they maintained that Avci had met Pınar in a bar, and after an initial encounter, he began to relentlessly pursue her through persistent messages and unwanted advances. During questioning, Avci confessed that he had subjected Pınar to physical violence on the day of her disappearance. He admitted that after a heated argument, triggered either by her rejection on social media or by his uncontrolled anger, he struck her, rendering her unconscious. In a chilling sequence of events, he then strangled her, claiming it was a moment of unjust provocation born out of overwhelming rage. But his crime did not end there. Determined to erase any evidence of his brutal act, Avci rushed to a nearby gas station, purchased a bottle of gasoline, and proceeded to an isolated area in Yerkesik. There, he burned Pınar's body while she was still alive and in a final, desperate attempt to cover up his crime, doused the remains in concrete. As investigators pieced together the tragic timeline, the case took on layers of complexity. Forensic reports from the Istanbul Forensic Medicine Institute and Adnan Menderes University Medical Faculty confirmed that Pınar had not been burned alive. Her body had been incinerated after death, a finding that directly contradicted initial sensational reports. In court, Avci's defense claimed that Pınar had, in fact, threatened him repeatedly, and that her persistent harassment had pushed him to a breaking point. Indeed, statements from her father, Sıdık Gültekin, suggested that Avci became enraged when Pınar blocked him on social media. Despite the damning evidence of premeditation, evidenced by his calculated purchase of gasoline, and the methodical manner in which he attempted to obliterate the crime scene, the court initially imposed a heavy sentence on Avci, an aggravated life sentence. However, in a controversial move that ignited public outrage both nationally and internationally, his sentence was later reduced to 23 years on the grounds of unjust provocation. Furthermore, while Avci's own brother, Mertcan Avci, who was implicated in assisting him, was acquitted, Other family members allegedly involved in destroying evidence, including his mother, father, ex-wife, and partner, were also cleared due to insufficient evidence. The court's rationale hinged on the argument that Avcii's act of burning and concreting the body was intended solely to destroy evidence and avoid capture, rather than to inflict additional suffering. This legal reasoning, however, was met with fierce criticism from Pınar's family, women's rights activists, and politicians alike, who argued that it sent a dangerous message about the value of women's lives. The murder of Pınar Gültekin resonated far beyond the borders of Muğla. Social media platforms, particularly Instagram, exploded with the hashtag #ChallengeAccepted, as thousands of Turkish women and international celebrities, including Hollywood stars such as Jennifer Aniston, Kerry Washington, Jennifer Garner, and Eva Longoria, voiced their solidarity and demanded an end to femicide and gender-based violence. Prominent political figures also weighed in. On July 22, 2020, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan took to Twitter, asserting his confidence that Avcii would receive the harshest possible penalty, and promising that the state would take all necessary measures to prevent such tragedies from recurring. Other officials, including Muğla's chief public prosecutor and high-ranking representatives from the Ministry of Family, Labor, and Social Services, underscored their commitment to justice and urged a thorough, impartial investigation. In addition to political and celebrity responses, the case sparked widespread protests across Turkey. In Izmir, for instance, a group of women determined to walk in memory of Pınar encountered aggressive police responses. Reports indicated that at least 15 women were detained, and allegations emerged of police brutality against female activists, a disturbing reminder of the systemic challenges in addressing violence against women. Amid the storm of public outrage, conflicting narratives began to circulate in the media. Several press outlets reported that Pınar Gültekin had been burned alive, a claim vehemently denied by official forensic reports. In response, Pınar's family's legal representatives, led by attorney Rezan Özdemir, issued a detailed press statement clarifying that Pınar had not been burned alive, and that all available forensic evidence disproved claims of her suffering additional pain after death. Their statement went on to contest other allegations, asserting that Avcii had been coerced into his confession and that he had been repeatedly threatened and blackmailed by Pınar herself, a claim supported by testimony from her brother and her roommate. The legal team argued that Avcii's desperate measures were a result of continuous, unrelenting financial and emotional exploitation by Pınar, and that his unjust provocation was a fabricated narrative aimed at softening the impact of his premeditated crime. The press release also decried the lynching campaign waged by certain media and social platforms, which they claimed spread falsehoods and contributed to a climate of misinformation. They stressed that the judicial process must be allowed to proceed without external pressure, and that the integrity of the trial should not be compromised by politically or ideologically driven narratives. In the wake of the verdict and the contentious legal process, Pınar Gültekin's case became a symbol, a rallying cry against the pervasive violence that too often claims the lives of women. For many, her tragic death underscored the urgent need for systemic reform in the judicial treatment of femicide and gender-based violence in Turkey. Prominent figures from various sectors, politicians, municipal leaders, artists, and sports icons, took to Twitter to express their sorrow and demand accountability. Figures such as Istanbul's mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu, Ankara's mayor Mansur Yavaş, and Izmir's mayor Tunç Soyer all offered heartfelt tributes, while influential musicians and actors added their voices to the call for justice. As the legal battle continued and public debates raged on, one undeniable truth remained. The death of Pınar Gültekin was not an isolated tragedy. It was a glaring indictment of a society where, too often, women are subjected to relentless harassment, violence, and systemic injustice. It was a call to action, a demand that the state, the legal system, and society at large work together to ensure that no woman's life is treated as disposable. Today, the name Pınar Gültekin endures not merely as a victim of a brutal crime, but as a powerful symbol of resilience and the struggle for justice. Her story continues to inspire movements, galvanize public opinion, and sparked debates on the rights and dignity of women in Turkey and around the world. In courtrooms, on the streets, and across social media, her legacy challenges us all. How many more lives must be shattered before true justice prevails? And until that day comes, her memory will serve as a relentless reminder that every woman deserves to live free from fear, exploitation, and violence. The tragic case of Pınar Gültekin is not just a story of a single life lost. It is a mirror reflecting the systemic failures and deep-rooted cultural issues that must be addressed. As the judicial process unfolds, one thing is clear: the fight for justice, for dignity, and for the protection of women's rights is far from over.